Dala, 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 dala. Welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to answer a question that was left not so long ago. Something that stuck on my mind and that spoke to me and that almost called me to speak about. One of you asked me to speak about the people from the shadows. I know many of you have fears and are fearful of the unknown or fearful of what lays in the darkness, what lays behind or beyond your sight when the light dims low and your sight is no longer there. I know some of you feel uncomfortable, but one important thing you have to understand about the peoples in the shadow is that while they strive and have their strength in the darkness, they also exist in the light. The light does not kill them. The light does not make them disappear, but before your eyes. So for this illustration or for this discussion, this conversation, if we may have one, I will turn and use the series Locke and Key and the illustration that is made of the shadow people. And in that particular series, when they talked about the crown of the shadow, a person being able to wear a crown so they can themselves become part of the shadow and as well as direct the other people of the shadow that are following the wearer of the crown. One illustration in particular that may give you a better understanding of what I'm saying when I say that the shadow people are still there despite the light. They may not have the same strength, they may not be as assertive and as powerful in the light, but they are still there. The light does not destroy them. And in the series you can see when the shadow people are called and the children are scared and they turn the light on and they have flashlights, and every time you show the light the shadow people just move away, they disappear. But you also notice that when the light is turned away or switched off, it's not that they went away. They reappear right where they left off, right where you turn off the light. So they were never destroyed. They're just no longer present in your consciousness. That's what this play with darkness and light is all about. Most of you focus on your senses, on your sight. And so anything that does not show when you look at them, that you can't see, you become wary of. This is why you're scared of ghosts. This is why you are uneasy in the darkness. But beloved, close your eyes and you'll see that within yourself the darkness is present as well. And the darkness or the shadow is not synonymous with evil. As we see in the series, the shadow people are used to do evil. And of course they have this appearance of monsters, what we as humans perceive to be monsters and the way we portray them. And don't get me wrong, there are some evil shadow people and evil entities within the shadow. But you still have to balance that with the other entities and the many other different things that lay in the shadow as well. And so for those of you who may be fearful of seeing a little shadow in the corner of your room and feel paralyzed, feel anxious, feel scared, feel terrified, what if the same shadow was there all day, maybe looking at you, waiting for the darkness to come so they can manifest themselves. You may say that doesn't help, that still make you fearful. However, what I want you to concentrate on, if you entertain the thought that this shadow being is there all the time, they are sharing the space that we share here with us. They only take over during the night when the light goes away. Just like a nocturnal animal will awaken at night and does what it does, so do you, the shadow people. And so if you start thinking that those beings are also here and present and well during the day, and that does not bring you any uncomfort, hold on to that feeling. Hold on to the way you feel about the confidence that you have when you can see, the confidence that you have that nothing can come towards you, that your reality is partially what you created. And hold on to that perception, hold on to that feeling, and have the same feeling when you are in the darkness. Most of the shadow people care not about you, or us for that matter. Shadow people stays in the shadow where they belong. They don't really try to come out of the shadow or try to interact with us. Unless, of course, as we've seen as an example in the series, where they are provoked, where they are invited, where they are told to do some certain things, or where they may claim. And of course, I've mentioned before, some of them are negative shadow people. Some of them do not want your well-being. Some of them do not want to share the space with you. And that may often occur when you move into a new apartment, a new place, a new home that you just bought, and that is filled of their presence. You may feel uneasy. You may even struggle with sharing the space with them, and a lot of places remain unused, remain abandoned because of that. Some other places need serious cleansing and clearing. Some other places even need more than that, much more than that. But for the most part, just like ghosts, the shadow people are not everywhere. They're not trying to get us. They're not after us. We are not that important to us. We are not that important to them. They're just carrying on with their business, minding their business for the most part. It is us that sometimes stumble upon them. You walk in the dark, going to the bathroom, and you see something that you don't understand necessarily. Something that does not fit in the perception that you do have, that is about everything that's material, that is about everything that is manifested and fixed and physical. Many of you walk around refusing to understand or to value or to comprehend that spirits and the spirit world is a dimension that we are experiencing at the same time as we are in this physical plane. Many of you don't care. Many of you think that as a human being you should be dominated. You should be dominating all of the spaces and occupying everywhere. That the shadow people should just go away and leave you alone. But you never think about maybe they've been here before you. Maybe they were there before you build your house on this particular place. Maybe they were there even before the first human walked on the earth. Maybe they've been very accommodating, trying not to disturb anyone and just come and roam in the darkness, avoiding to scare you, trying to avoid it to not be too much at themselves, because they are trying to accommodate you and let you take places. And from small villages you turn into small town become larger town, then they become cities, and they become mega cities, and sooner than later there is less and less space for them to continue to exist. And so they have no choice but cohabit with us in the same space. And as we multiply, as we start to build on top of each other and have towers and buildings as high as the sky, we too are crushing and infringing upon the space and the lives of the shadow people. And yet, as we barge into this space, we always find them and point the fingers to them that they are negative, they are necessarily the problem, they need to go. We never wonder our part, our responsibility, which is think that we are just poor human beings trying to make it. And the fact that this thing in the corner of the room is there is something that is disturbing to you, something that you will want to chase. You don't want to understand why is it even there to begin with, but you create and listen to the stories that are being told, stories that vilify those beings, stories that refuse to see the heterogeneity and the diversity of among the shadow people, as there's diversity among human beings. Are all human beings bad? So how could be all the shadow people bad? Now to turn to those who are part of the shadows and who refuse to cohabitate with us, who will make our life terrible if we intrude in their spaces, or if we live in a space that they want to occupy, they want to dominate. Some of them will make our life close to being hell. And for that, you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware when you are being targeted. And in order to know that, you need to use your discernment. It isn't a matter of black and white, of something being straightforward. It's something that you have to observe. It's something that you must inquire with yourself. The next time you see a little shadow in the corner, instead of just rushing to your comfortable fear and staying or saying to yourself that you are paralyzed, question and ask yourself, what does that want? Am I intruding in that space? And instead of feeling fearful, you may also choose to say, don't come close to me. Walk away and carry on going to sleep, going to bed. A lot of the stories about the shadow people are misunderstood. Of course, the negative stories are the ones that take hold. The stories of encounter with shadow people to the extent that you feel paralyzed and that they're coming to you and they're coming closer and closer and closer. And you can't move, you can't breathe, and you feel powerless. And yet, what is often interesting about the stories is that this supposedly evil shadow being never does anything else than just being there. Never actually pinch you or lift hair on your head. Its presence alone is what creating all of the anxiety, the fear, and the drama. Can you imagine being terrified by the presence of another? Not by what they do, not by what they say, but simply by the way they look. It calls us sometimes those type of experiences, and those who have those experiences of feeling like, oh, there is this monster in my room. This thing has a despicable appearance. And yet it does not try to harm me, even though I think it's evil. For those of you who have those types of experiences, you may want to ask yourself if you're not being too judgmental, and if those experiences are not a reflection of who you are. Judging people by their exterior, judging others by how they look, and using how they look to say they make you feel some kind of way. Beloved, use your discernment at all times and in any situation. Something that is not trying to harm you, something that may be just passing by, something that may have been disturbed by you and that may be curious about you. If you feel threatened and you start getting angry, or you start screaming, or you start feeling some kind of way, what is making you think that this entity, this being, is not also going to feel some kind of way about you? And from this negative encounter, refute and rebuke to you the negativity that you send to them. And then it becomes a vicious circle where you keep seeing it, having the same experience. There, send back that negative energy to you, and the circle repeats itself on and on and on and on until you decide to stop. Either you decided to turn your attention to something else. Stop looking at that corner, empty that corner, and go to sleep. Stop giving it any energy at all. Why send it any negative energy? Don't give it any energy at all. Mind your own business, as some will say. Others will even say they will leave altogether, pack their bags and leave that place. But that reflection and that thing of sending negativity to whatever you don't comprehend, whatever you've never seen before, running to fear as some kind of armor, and sending negative thought, negative imprints to that thing, may even cause it to follow you around and to keep sending back to you the energy you are sending to them. A lot of the things that are happening in terms of sleep paralysis, in terms of shadow people, instead of little darkness and things like that, will be a lot different if you had a different perception yourself. If you were focused not on the being in your presence or what they look like, but use your own discernment. It is not because you do not know something or cannot comprehend it, or that it doesn't fit in your religious narrative, your cultural narrative, your scientific narrative, that you owe to immediately go and expect the worst. Your discernment has to be there. This is why if you just used your discernment, you will see that for many of you, this being never attacked you. You yourself put yourself in a position, in a situation with your own reflection, with your own way of thinking, cooking up all kind of fantastic stories in your head, maybe because of some of the movies that you've seen. But when you look at the fact that being never approached you, that being never did and said anything to you. And for the most part, those beings in the shadows are not trying to hurt you. Now, this granted, there are negative entities anywhere, whether in the shadow or even in the light. It's not because you do not see them in the light that they are not there. And as much as we talk about the shadow people, one day we'll talk about the beings in the light, the negative beings in the light. The light is not always bright and always, great. Even the fire can burn you, as an example. But it is true that the shadow people, for the most part, get a bad name because of those bad apples, because of those who are there to cause havoc and prey on others and all that stuff. So they are negative entities in the shadows. But there are also good ones. There are those of them that stays in shadow to look after you, to watch over you. There are those in the shadows that don't even care about you and just want to mind their own business, doing what they have to do. So this next time, I hope that this little perspective will help you put a little bit of water in your wine. Take things with a little bit more of a grain of salt in terms of what you think you know, and help you look at what is actually going on. And the interesting thing in this series is that the wearer of the crown is the one directing the shadow people to do some evil things. And you do have that when you have your own thoughts. Your own thoughts are part of the shadows. So when you're constantly thinking negative about somebody, for whatever reason, this person done you wrong, this person never came through for you, this person disappointed you, and you keep your mind with and fill your mind with negative thoughts. Where do you think that those thoughts are going? Each day you wake up and you can't tell your story without saying how someone else is negative, without pointing fingers, without blaming somebody and pushing on negativity towards them. Some of you are even wishing harm on other people because they refuse to be in a relationship with you, because they refuse to interact with you in the way that you will require them to, because they even refuse to return the love to you that you gave them. And so you use your energy to belittle them, to wish them the worst. And then you walk around thinking that whatever negative energy that you created, that you are entertaining, that you are nourishing, is just going to dissipate on its own. No, beloved, that negative energy that you have is going to sink into the shadow. And for some of you, what you see lurking at the corner, waiting with a sense of anger and bitterness, has nothing to do with the shadow people themselves. For some of you, it has everything to do with your own self, looking back at you with all of the anger and the negative energy that you put into them, that you feed them during the day. And so at night, there they grow. And they get stronger. And you start feeling them coming close to you because they are going to seek you. After all, you are their creator. You created them. So they're going to seek and want to be close to you. And just like the wearer of the crown in the series, you're going to want to direct them towards the person that you are ill-intended towards. So you are becoming that wearer of the crown. And the wonderful news here, beloved, is that if you realize that, it also means that you can decide to take off that crown. You can decide to stop feeding that negative energy and to get rid of these shadows. It's not going to be easy, especially if you've been feeding them for years and years, always justifying every little thing that this person is doing to make it put in a negative way, to justify the way you feel, to justify your victimhood, to justify the fact that you do not want to do anything to change your own situation, or to accept the responsibility that is yours, the part of responsibility that is yours. And beloved, for this particular situation, the only way for you to have this shadow being disappear and go away, if you stop feeding it, stop creating it, and use all of the bright energy that you have to focus it on what you want, what you want to work on the thoughts that are pleasing to you, that are going to energize your own experience and your own spirit. Focus on the thing that align with you and feed that, multiply that, create more of it in your mind, in your heart, so they align with your soul. Use your energy and your life force wisely, beloved. Time and energy are precious. What you think of, what you entertain into your mind is precious. If you think of shadow beings or as other beings sharing this plane with us, having their own ways, being different from one another, and just remembering, no matter what is going on, to use your own discernment so that you can recognize when what you're seeing is just a reflection of your own self. And if it's the case, to have the courage to take your part of responsibility and to make it go away by not screaming at it, but by changing yourself. So I hope this beginning of discussion on the shadow people has been useful. I hope it will set some of the discussion in the comments that I've seen around, and that you'll let me know in the comment section what you thought about it. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next.